Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon to all our 12 Monarchs out there in Monarch Nation, coming off a 42-14 win over Campbell. That puts our record at 8-3 right now, 6-0, undefeated at home, and on a 4-game win streak. Saturday was an emotional day for our seniors, certainly a day that we know they'll never forget, and we are very grateful to all the fans who helped honor those seniors, but also for all the fans that helped us sell out all 6 home games this year. We now have a consecutive streak of 35 games sold out. We've never played in front of a crowd that hasn't been sold out. So everybody, myself, players, coaches, we're all grateful for the incredible support we've had as a program. Saturday's game started poorly for our team in terms of the first kickoff. We kicked out of bounds, then Campbell went on a 13-play, 65-yard drive that felt like it took the entire game. In fact, it took half of the first quarter. They jumped up 7-0, and then our offense came back and answered on an 8-play, 65-yard drive that only took 2 minutes and 43 seconds and tied the score at 7-7. And that would be the type of game that this would become, as Campbell dominated the time of possession in the game. And fortunately for us, defensively, we were a bend but not break operation in this football game. Special teams-wise, 2 blocked field goals. We now have 4 on the season, which we're starting to develop that mentality as a block unit, which we had in years past with guys like Eddie McClam, Chris Burnett that were on that team, Craig Wilkins. That's starting to come back, which is exciting. Our punter, Jake Walsh, had his best day of the year. Jake had 2 punts for 41.5 yards, and that was the net of those punts also, which was critical. There was no return yards involved. That'll be even more critical this week at North Carolina. And then overall, having 52 guys that were involved in this game, a lot of them on special teams, but offense, defensively, a lot more development within this team, which is critical to not only win now, but develop our team for the future, and that happened again on Saturday. Defensively, the good news was we only allowed 14 points. The bad news is Campbell ran 74 plays for 422 yards and held the ball for nearly 42 minutes. I felt like we took a step backwards Saturday defensively, and we're capable of playing so much better. And when I addressed this with our team yesterday in our team meeting, I was talking to our defense about the fact that we went up to Pittsburgh not so long ago and held them to 340 yards and held an NFL prospect quarterback to only 100 yards passing. And then last week at Idaho in the second half, I felt like we were a very good football team, only allowing 1 touchdown. And we did not play like that yesterday. We're certainly capable of playing a lot better, and I feel good about the fact that our players got that message yesterday in the meeting. Offensively, solid performance, 50 plays, 500 yards, average 10 yards per play. I felt like we were very good overall in the pass game. Between Taylor Heineke and David Washington, we were 25 for 32 for 419 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. We threw the ball well, we caught the ball well, ran very good routes, and then I felt like our protection was very good up front. We had a couple sacks, but those were more based on coverage and the quarterback's not getting rid of the football. Our offensive line and Troy Butler stepping in for an injured Josh Mann performed very well in this game. Speaking to this week's opponent, North Carolina, they are 4-0. That's how I'm looking at it. They're 4-0. They've won their last 4 games, and what I mean by that, this is an entirely different football team than the one that started out 1-5 this season. In the last 4 games, they've been dominant. They've averaged 35 points per game, allowed 17.5 points per game, and this is a home win over Boston College. They went on the road and beat NC State, came back home and dominated UVA, and then this past Saturday they went up to Pittsburgh and won there. So they've won 4 straight games. This is definitely the wrong time to go to Chapel Hill and play this football team. And I saw this turnaround coming 5 weeks ago when I was performing my radio show with my good friend Ted Alexander at the Wild Wing Cafe. And the Miami-North Carolina game was the Thursday night game it was on, and you could see North Carolina, their energy in that game, their excitement. You could see the younger players starting to perform well, and at the time Miami was undefeated number 10 in the nation. They ended up losing that game late. They lost 27-23 in a game like I felt like they were the better football team. And since that game, this has been a complete turnaround for this football team. They've been dominant in all three phases in their last 4 games. And this is clearly the biggest challenge that we will face in our 50th game as a program. This team, this challenge, how hot they are right now, will make this an incredible challenge for our team. Offensively, they're led by Marquez Williams, their quarterback, who's a really dynamic player. He's really come on strong, particularly these last 2 weeks where he started. They had an NFL prospect in Renner who's been injured, and now that Williams has been getting the majority of the snap, they've changed offensively what they're doing. There are a lot more QB runs. He threw for 180 and rushed for 80 in this past game against Pittsburgh, had a couple rushing touchdowns. They're massive up front in the offensive line. Every one of their O-linemen is well over 300 pounds and big and physical. They've got a first-round draft pick at tight end who's an exceptional receiver as well as a blocker. And then they've got outstanding skill players at their running back, wide receiver position. They're rolling a lot of guys through that are playing right now, particularly a lot of younger players that are gaining experience. Defensively, big and athletic in the defensive line. They had 7 sacks this past week against Pittsburgh. They're led by Kareem Martin, who has 9 sacks on the season, and he's a real dynamic player. He can stand up, he can come off the edge. They play him inside. Physically, he looks like he could play linebacker, but he's a guy speed-wise that can really run and creates matchup problems, not unlike Aaron Donald when we played Pittsburgh, that type of a dynamic player. And then they've got tremendous speed at linebacker and defensive back. This season so far, they've intercepted 12 passes, but they've had their hands on 36 other throws, so they would clearly be leading the nation right now in interceptions if they were pass catchers. But sometimes that's why your guys end up at defensive back. They don't necessarily catch the ball that well. But when I watch them on video, it looks like every guy they roll in at defensive back is 6 feet tall and 200 pounds and runs a 4.4 40-yard dash. They're very dynamic there, and I can't emphasize enough, this looks like a different team to me. When I watched their first 6 games when they went 1-5, other than the last loss to Miami where you could see the change occur, these last 4 games, they've been a very good football team. They're clearly better than we are going into this matchup, so it's gonna take a monumental effort by Old Dominion. We're gonna have to do everything right, and then we're gonna have to hope that we get a little bit of help from the football gods on Saturday. And with that, I'll take questions.
Hey, Bobby, what do you attribute the defensive regression the other day? Was it stuff Campbell was doing or stuff you guys weren't doing?
Combination of both. Campbell had been a team that they hit their average. They go for about 420 yards a game. Where we have had issues this year, Dave, is when we get dual threat quarterbacks, like we're going to see this Saturday at North Carolina, guys that can run the ball and throw the ball, and teams that run different elements of the triple option, if you will, whether it be zone read, teams that give us multiple formations, teams that give us some different looks and do it consistently. And that generally happens when you're a younger defense or you've got a lot of new players that are trying to learn a system, and that's what happened to us Saturday.
Injuries?
No more than the usual. You know, it's the same. It's about 25 guys that are on the injury report. We got some guys banged up in this game. Certainly not offensively. You know, offensively, this is probably as healthy as we've been going into it because we only played 50 snaps and we had the starters out for almost the entire fourth quarter. But defensively, that was a long game for us. You know, we had 74 snaps in that game and really bumped and bruised. But the guys will be. I can already tell they're going to be spending a lot of extra time in the training room this week because everybody wants to be on that bus Friday.
Do you think you guys are better equipped to be playing against this, maybe not this particular FBS, but an FBS opponent now than you were, 5 weeks ago, say, against Pitt?
I feel like we have better knowledge of what we're doing. I feel like we've gained confidence overall as a program, particularly coming out of that Pitt game. My concern is physically, that we don't match up against this team physically. We don't match up in the interior line. That's a major concern, and that's where the game starts. You know, everything starts in the offensive defensive line, and for what we do offensively, you know, we need to be able to protect the quarterback and give him time. And they've got some dominant players in their defensive line. And then offensively, their offensive line they're big, they're athletic. The quarterback's a major concern, Dave, because he's so hard to tackle. I haven't seen another quarterback like him this year. Certainly not anybody that we've faced that's this big and physical. You know, they list him at 6'2", 215, but he appears to me like he's hit the training table hard the last 12 weeks because he runs like he's 250 pounds. He ran for 2 touchdowns Saturday against Pittsburgh, and he broke multiple tackles on the run, so he's very difficult to tackle. And that's what's going to make it the most challenging this weekend is how physical they're playing, how much confidence they're playing with. You know, I could sit here and tell you that we're a confident bunch and we're on a 4-game win streak, but when I look across the line and see the difference in terms of the caliber of the program overall. I don't want to say the caliber of the player, the caliber of the program. You know, where North Carolina is and where we are. There's a major difference, and there's a major difference between the 2 4-game win streaks right now.
Coach Fedora inherited some problems there, scholarship penalties and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk a little bit about, from what you've seen from afar, as how he's managed to hold on to things and how he's managed the program there?
I can't speak a lot to what he's dealt with because I don't really know what his situation is right now. I can speak to what I've seen the last 4 weeks, and as far as I'm concerned, the last 4 weeks he's done a fabulous job. His players, his coaches. I've been on staffs previously where you've got that 1-5 start, and it usually doesn't turn like this. There's very few times you can look at a program and you could probably go do research right now and see how many teams this year started 1-5 and have got it to 5-5 with the type of momentum they have. And I'm sure he's also saying to his guys, there's a mathematical possibility they could win their side of the division. Right now they're sitting there with 3 losses along with Georgia Tech, Virginia Tech, Miami. Duke's got 2 losses, and they play Duke in 2 weeks. So conceivably they could win their side of the division, and all that momentum right now, somehow, some way, he's kept that ship afloat, and those guys have kept those kids believing in what they're doing, and not unlike us right now here, they're playing a lot of younger players. When you look at their depth chart, there's the quarterback's a sophomore. A lot of their guys right now in the 2 deep are sophomores and freshmen, and it would appear to me what he's doing is he's trying to build this for the future, not unlike what we're trying to do. But what I've been most impressed with the job he's done, his staff, that entire organization, is the fact they're on a 4-game winning streak. They're doing it against all ACC competition. They've beaten 2 teams that are, that BC's already bowl eligible, and I think Pittsburgh's going to be bowl eligible. So they've beaten a couple quality teams in there record-wise, and that's impressive. But I can't speak to what he inherited and what he's been able to do other than these 4 wins, which really caught my attention.
Does what they do offensively, not just the personnel, but just sort of the scheme and the hurry-up stuff, is that a concern for you, especially like you said with a young defense and all that? Can you speak to that a little bit?
How many times can I say major? It's a major concern. Yeah, you can check every box from tempo, size, speed, athleticism of the quarterback. Everything that they're doing creates a problem, because it's not as if I can't stand up here in front of you right now and say there's an area of our defense that's dominant. There isn't. It's like we're sticking fingers in the leaks in the dam is what we're doing each week. It's something different that comes up. This week we just allowed 280 yards passing. When I look back to Pittsburgh, we only allowed 100 yards passing to an NFL prospect. So it's not as if there's an area that I can look at right now and say, wow, we're really getting better at this. We're an up and down team right now on defense, with all the guys that we're trying to play, with all the guys that are injured. You know, we've got 3 starters out for the year. We've got 9 other defensive players that are on the injury report. Some of them are banged up pretty good. Some of them, I don't know how much they're going to be able to practice. And it's just going to have to be a monumental effort this week. You know, everybody's going to have to play their best game defensively for us to even be in this game.
Any other questions for Coach?
Thank you all for coming. Thank you again, 12th Monarchs, for that 6th consecutive sellout, 35 in a row, and we hope to see you all in sunny Chapel Hill on Saturday.